Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Grand Prixquel Podcast, where we discuss all things speeder series. On today's episode, we're going to be doing a recap of the F2 and F3 weekends at the Red Bull Ring, as well as doing a preview of the upcoming E4 Championship. Your hosts for today are myself, Robin, Alex, Nova, and Peter.
Yeah, so starting with Formula 2, looking to qualifying. I think we should look toward who is going to be on the sprint front row. Here we had Montoya in 10th and Bennett in P9, making them our front row for the sprint race. I'm sorry, what?
But I just want to point out in general that I think this we can I think Red Bull Rings are great. It plays on one of those tracks where you can really see the strengths of teams. And I think it's really interesting to see that such a more typical track seems to be fitting for Bennett. I mean, the whole quali session was a bit weird with Noel Leon already doing his lap fairly early on and then just being fine with it. Kind of, boss move, if you ask me. I feel like it tells a lot about the strengths of different drivers and different teams because you all have to correct me, but I swear that Verone and Herta were down pretty low. And for both of them, it's a track that they have not driven or not driven in quite a long time. And I think it's really telling how you can see the strengths of drivers coming with this experience. And on the other end, also the teams that I'm a bit surprised about because I did expect Invicta to be the clear strongest again because I swear that in the last years, tracks like this was really fast paced and you need to be really quick and also the strategy to get them on track in the right moment has always been their strong suit. I mean, last year, Leonardo Fonaroli had his pole position here because back then, I swear well said, its track that really fit the Invicta crew, like the way that they operated.
Yeah, I think it's also, I feel like there's not really a clear top team in terms of pace like there maybe was last year. Like last time out, Invicta were really strong at Spain, especially with how good they are on the tires, whereas over here, it wasn't so strong. But Kamara is still consistently getting these points, which is the main thing in F2 is consistency. So I guess we may be able to wait and see because we still have a fair few number of rounds to go.
Yeah, but I feel like it's very clear that the German commentator also mentioned it that Campos in quite a lot of series made clear steps forward during the winter break, and they seem to be really, really up there and really fighting for being the quickest car.
In every series but Eurocup 3, they've somehow regressed in the one series I care about.
I think that's just the Alex Power curse, and of course he wanted to bring him up in an episode where he's not even meant to be mentioned.
Whatever.
I have a feeling this is not the first campus poll, but apparently it is. I did not think that. I feel like both the drivers have been so strong and so quick.
I think Solovy's always had someone in the top five, so he's or top 10. He's always starting somewhere around there. Was he not on pole in Monaco?
No, Kamara took pole in Monaco, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, and then I remember. And then he fluffed it. He went off into the
Mhm. Kamara took at the very end of qualifying.
yeah, of course. Sorry, my mistake. Anyways, I think moving on to the sprint race. I think the main thing, I'm just still surprised at how well Bennett has been doing. I think he played a really smart race. He got the initial lead. Then, yeah, he lost the lead, but he still kept pace with Montoya. And kind of he attacked. Last lap move is always, he kind of over-farming with that, but it's still pretty cool. And yeah, hopefully we begin to see more of Bennett, because having a win, albeit in a sprint, is still going to be a massive boost of confidence for any driver.
I mean, interestingly enough, Trident has been the better team than Prema so far this season. And I think Bennett is driver that should be able to do it. His career has just been so incredibly weird.
Yeah, and towards the end, it was also interesting how quickly Montoya fell away because Villa Gomez was suddenly all over the back of him as well. Like one more lap and he'd have been overtaken by Villa Gomez, I reckon, because he was literally all over the back of him throughout that final third sector where he can't have really overtaken that third sector. That's why I think Villa Gomez didn't get past, but
I mean, I assume for a lot of drivers, especially when in the top, we saw the Red Bull Ring is not the easiest on the tires. I think I could imagine if you played the tire game the right way, and if you also took the DRS, which fairly good around here, um, I think that's a really good way to be up there, and I feel like we saw that with drivers like Lagamis really work out.
yeah, it felt almost like an F3 race in the way they were all having to keep their tires alive, and that came really important towards the end.
But I think generally it was a fairly comparably uneventful race. Like, oh no, it was not. Like the first lap was a bit chaotic, when there was a lot of incidents. I feel like it was weird because it was a lot of smaller incidents, but it all bundled up into one bigger incident.
I mean, never really got a proper replay of that because the camera was really far away. He couldn't see shit.
And the problem was rather for me that there was so much happening simultaneously that it's really hard to also judge who's at fault for what. Because you have in the first lap, obviously, a lot of cars going side by side through the corners. And at some point, I think it was Kamara who hit someone in the back. I don't remember who. The person spun around, took Sola with them. For some reason, one of the IX cars was also involved. I had to stop. There was just a lot of drama, and I think that's kind of really typical for F2. But it's generally the only thing from that weekend, not from a weekend, from a race that I remember as being really typically F2 fashion. The rest of it was pretty, tame for F2.
Yeah, also speaking of Soloff, he made a good recovery after that incident because it was impressive. I mean, I've said this quite a few times on the podcast now, but he continues to impress me with what he's doing. Yes, the Red Bull Ring is relatively easy to overtake on compared to other tracks. It's opening himself up, especially with those DRS zones at the start. But he's making those moves when he needs to, and it's kept the tires alive. And yeah, it was a shame also to see Colton Herta get mecha-chromed because he was running around the top 10 when it happened, and I was hoping maybe he's keeping his tires alive, maybe we can see a few more points from him, but the engine just kind of gave up on him.
I'm really disappointed in High Tech this season because at the very least, in 2024, they were one of those really strong teams, and I expected a lot more there.
Even last year, Luke won last year, I think, with them.
I don't remember. I just remember when Paul Aaron was with the team, and we said a lot because we all said that who was it? Amar Cardiel, I think, was really underperforming when the car would have been a lot better. And I feel like it's the entire way around now, where we have two really great drivers who could perform and I think are performing to the best of what they can currently do with their experience and the things that they do. But there's just so many issues, so many small issues, or so many things that just don't go right. And it could be the fact that High Tech has had some weird stuff going on in the background, but like, I'm a bit disappointed.
I think beyond that, I don't have too much more to say about the sprint race.
I think it was a solid race, just typically F2 race, think of. Bit of chaos. I mean, we had quite the surprising podium, I feel like, because you don't always see a podium, including like drivers who are doing their first podiums of their whole F2 career, of the whole season. Pretty sure all of them had their first podium for the season here. Like I know Villagamish at least has had podiums before in F2, but for the season, I think it's even his first points.
And somehow, even after that sprint podium, he's still last in the standings.
So, what do we got now?
Yeah, the future race. Yeah, I mean, Sholov again going for the win, but I mean, the battle between Sholov, Dunn, and Minnie, and I mean, again, Sholov and Dunn working each other cleanly. Have they changed? They did this last week, they did it last time out in Spain, they're doing it again. They're both reformed people almost, as if.
I'm really glad because I think we're lining up for an incredible title fight. And what we saw in that features, I think it was a great race because we were really lucky to have quite a lot of drivers fighting for the lead, drivers whose lead also means a lot for the championship and the things and the points that they're scoring. Like we have once again Gary Mini, who finished P2 and continues his very, very solid streak of podiums. And we talked about it uh, earlier. I didn't remember what, but it's really important in F2 to consistently score points. And so far, he has scored points in every single race but one. And he's had, I think, 7 podiums in 12 races. Like, that's a really, really good statistic. And I think a lot of drivers will say they want to win, obviously, but there is a reason why he's currently above Solov in standings, even though Solov has 3 more wins than him, because Solov either has like a win or there's oftentimes also more retirements, also more incidents that send him to the back of the pack. So I think we're lining up to see a really interesting battle up there, and I think, as you've already mentioned, it's great to see the way that they drove all cleanly, and even though they were fighting quite a lot also with just the whole group of Mini, Solov, Kamara, and Dunn, no one of them DNF'd. I think that was a really strong result and a really strong showing for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, Dunn's end of the race was interesting to say the least. I mean, not too clear. Maybe he had some clutch issues or something, but
I assumed he just cooked his tires because like there was a lot of fights, and I could really imagine that stuff really going on your tires after a while.
I mean, he had clutch issues at the start, I believe, and then, but also he did run wide at the start when the straight going off track, so that maybe caused some minor damage as well. But as you said, I mean, look at the championship. It is, I mean, Solov and Mini are only separated by 2 points. Incredibly close up there. And even the likes of Kamara and Dunn aren't too further back, with Kamara being 24 points behind Solov and Dunn only 2 points behind Solov. I mean, behind Kamara.
I mean, we still have quite a few races. I think we're at almost half the season, and I think what we've seen also, you can, I mean, look at Solve's stats. You can win 2 races and then do not score points in the next 4 races. Like
He
it can
actually won
happen.
3 future races.
Yeah, but I was looking at the Australia feature and Miami sprint, which won and then did not score points for 4 races, and then he won again.
The fact he's won 3 future races, that's 75, that's pretty much 75% of his points have come from that.
But also, I think it's really interesting then to think about what campus is doing, what campus is clearly doing right, that they seem to always put him on the correct strategy for the win, and that they clearly have the pace to do it.
Because even Leon is there in P5 in championship.
And I feel like he's one of those drivers where we don't really. I mean, I think he's a solid driver, but I think if we compare him to other drivers who have relationships to F1 teams who are below him, like Dino Beganovic or Kashmini or even Colton Herta, I think no one really expected him to be that up far, but considering the team and car, he really should be.
The campus was in a way, like last year, they both performed well. I mean, 2024 with Hadra, they were good in the title fight. Last year, they had Arvid Lindblad. They've all kind of been up there, but as you said, they've taken a step further almost.
I feel like what they're doing right now, I have not seen them do a mistake. Like, I feel like in 2024, we complained quite a lot about especially strategy mistakes that they've made and just like little things that didn't line up. Last year it was the same, and I feel like this year it just really kind of all folds together, and we seem to have done the best. But I think even though it was a good race, I think it was besides the battle between the leaders of the championship, there was actually surprisingly little going on, except for the fact when Boya suddenly went up into flames. That was a real Formula moment.
That's always got to happen at some point. We've got to have someone be macrocrimed in every way, so
It was really impressive that Hertha didn't like just crash straight into the back of him.
I could not be a racing driver because that would stress me out.
I'll just panic and crash.
What if my car turns higher next?
Minnie in the cooldown room after he like went past Boya, he was so funny, and I feel like he is he's spiritually what I am on the podcast, just dramatic yapping constantly. It was it was great.
Overall, I'm really grateful that the way it seems right now, there's really no favorite for the championship title. Like last year, we knew that the Invicta was the strongest car, and so we all hoped others could also be in a title fight. But for me, it was pretty clear that it was not likely to happen. But at the moment, I'm going to be honest, I don't think MP is the strongest car, and I feel like they've made quite a few mistakes, especially with Ollie Goethe, which I know a lot of others we know are kind of mad about. And Gabriel Mini, he's doing a good season, but how do you do that against two drivers who are considered to be in better cars with Soloff and Kamara right behind him? And Alex Dunn is, I think, the one who was from the bunch of them the highest in the championship last season. So it's a really, really interesting class, and it's lining up to be a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, which is great.
Yeah, and of course, as we've alluded to in the team's championship, surprise, surprise, Campos is fast. Who would have expected that? Unless anyone has anything more to say about F2, I think we'll move on to F3 now.
We can move on to F3. Before we get into any of the racing, we had a new driver for the AIXC. Salim Hanna was in, and I thought it was really funny because I was expecting K and B. Like if they were to pick any of the three Freck drivers, I thought it was gonna be K and B, but it wasn't.
And especially, it'd been funny to have them after he lost him out at the Red Bull Ring. So that was quite eventful. Sorry, Nova, but that was quite eventful to say the least.
It was. But Salim was a surprise, honestly. I think out of all the drivers that were put forward as a possible like filler, I wasn't expecting Salim at all.
It's just, I guess, whoever can pay.
Yeah. And luckily for us, we are recording on a Wednesday, which means we already know who is in for Silverstone. We don't need to wait and say, "Oh my god, if they announce it after the episode." We know. They're bringing Escoto back.
Who knows? They just announced it's actually someone else.
I guess there's so many other series happening this week with, of course, there's E4 happening, there's Fluck going on, EC3 is racing, I think GP3 is as well.
The thing is, Inc Next is on too.
But I guess, is there any series which is not racing this week where a driver could realistically step up to
Super Formula Lights.
Evan Gilter? Bring Evan Gilter into F3.
I really would have liked to see either Gilter or Bora show up, but it's Escoto again. Don't know why he's prioritizing an F3 cameo over his Indy Next season, but whatever.
And and Sam, he actually did a solid job in qualifying because he's the highest AIX, so I mean, good job. I mean, the other two AIX drivers are, yeah, but still a good achievement to have, I think.
That sounds so mean. Oh my god. I feel like wait, I need to look up who the AIX drivers actually are.
It's Johan David and Fernando Barrichello.
That's both drivers who do not have a lot of experience, especially like it's their first season in F3. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Brad Benavides also out qualified them pretty clearly.
Yeah, and also I guess Salim, he's been to the track before, which helps. He's of course he's here for work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's a rookie in Freck, and last year was his F4 rookie season as well. So
Yeah,
he's
he's still done quite a good job, I think. It's not like we don't want to take away from that.
considering he's in an AIX, I was a bit impressed. Yeah.
And I mean, it's quite surprising because Niall, where was Niall? He's been so good in qualifying, and then he's just kind of ghosted, to say the least.
Niall and Badaware were both nowhere.
He was only P25 in qualifying, Niall, and that was a real surprise, because
Yeah, I watched qualifying, but what happened? Because I cannot imagine that he just did not have the speed.
I think it was probably track limits or something. Like, just his laps kept getting deleted, and so he just didn't have any good ones.
That's a good explanation, and I'm going to accept that as being the right one.
yeah, especially, we've seen how strong Campos have been this year. I mean, we had Ugo Chukwu was second, Rivera was also in the top 12. Okay, maybe not as strong as they were in Spain, but they're still quite strong here.
That's because Spain is their home track and they know it the best. Like,
Yeah.
they will always be kind of the one to beat there because, again, it is their home track. It's a track that they have a lot more when they race in what Robin will know more about, the Spanish series.
Again, Alex Powell mentioned number 2.
I'm still annoyed that Campos has not been dominating Euro Cup 3, but that's a problem for another episode. I'm not going to. I'm not going.
And then he was in the sprint race. Rivera, I mean, the way he come back from injury has been really impressive. Of course, he missed the first round of the back injury and he's come back and he's been really good in getting a win. He did really good, nice overtake on Wharton.
I mean, he's P11 in standings even after missing a whole round, so I think that on one hand side shows the way that he's been really good at getting used to the cars with arguably, a bit less time than the others, but also obviously he has a good car, he's in a good team.
Okay, I want to talk about having at the start. Maybe I don't want to talk about it. Stromstead took Slater out.
Well, technically, it was a racing incident.
Okay, but if you watch it, Stromstead is basically oversteering to Freddie. Freddie gave him room.
Kind of what should he have done because I mean I'm pretty sure that it was also radio racing incident because it was the first lap.
I just want to blame Stromstead. I'm just going to blame him because he crashed into Freddie and took Freddie out of the way. Of course.
Yeah, you're biased, and I think that's not cool. I think it's really important to keep in mind that it was the first lap. There was a lot of stuff going on. And when you have to decide between, you know, a lot of times they think, hey, I can do this. And only then they oversteer and then they realize, oh, I can't do this. I actually, you know, overestimated myself. At that point, there's no way to take it back. And if you go into any situation thinking, how could this end badly, you'll make a really, really shit racing driver. Because if that didn't happen, he would have had a pretty good start. And if we go from in 100 situations where it's the same start, he would not have oversteered into
I
every.
don't care. He crashed into Freddie. That's all I.
Maybe Freddie should have just qualified on pole and not been in his way.
Stop being biased, Peter.
Why can't I be biased? Why can I not be biased?
Because I'm against biases. I'm evil.
Moving on. Moving on. Claro had some really good overtakes during the race. There was one point where he overtook 2 cars into one corner. I don't remember whether that was the space, but it was really good.
Yeah, he got a strong weekend overall, and yeah. Wharton at the end
His best one so far.
Wharton at the end just fell off completely. He was there in P2. He just lost he just got swamped by
I could imagine that it is the tires
tire.
and
Yeah.
potential tire overheating, overdoing the tires, and suddenly the guys behind you and they've been using the RS the whole time. They've been there and they've not pushed as hard, and suddenly they're dangerous.
It was nice to see Nakamura on the podium. I liked that.
Was that not the race where we had no, Kenneth Lee was qualified, but if he was not qualified, we would have had all four Japanese drivers in the top 10, which I also found to be quite interesting.
There's something about Austria that the Japanese drivers really like somehow.
Or hate.
Can be. There's some. He doesn't like Austria.
I mean, he's part Japanese.
He's not Japanese enough.
Maybe you need to be fully Japanese.
It's within him.
He hated it so much, we made up a new verb for the Austria weekend, actually. I think.
But yeah, so good performance from all the Japanese drivers this weekend.
There can only be one Nakamura in Austria, and it's not Key Nakamura Berta.
Oh my god, imagine the confusion with the commentators if Jin and Kian both raced together in the same weekend.
Nakamura against Nakamura.
I mean, they called Jin Nakajima at some point in one of the races. So there's only one Nakamura, and they're still messing up his name.
You know what I just saw? What I think is actually really hilarious. Brad Benavides only did 2 rounds out of the 4 we've done so far, and he's still P18 in the championship, and there's
Oh my god.
so many guys below him. That's so bad, actually. He also only scored points once.
That's horrific.
I think someday we need to have a conversation of if F3 the way it is right now actually makes sense, because this is just sad.
Last thing I want to mention about the sprint race is that Enzo was having some kind of mechanical issue at the start, which is why he had a horrific start. And then I don't know what McLaughlin was doing, but he went off track, came back on track, and just went straight into the side of Enzo. And they were both fine, I think. Wait, I don't remember what happened to Finn after that, but Enzo was fine at least.
All that matters.
We forgot to mention one thing, I think, and that is the winner of the race. Oh my god, I forgot his name.
Ernesto Rivera.
And Nestor Rivera. He's a Red Bull Junior at the Red Bull Ring. So was also Red Bull Junior. We also didn't mention that. I know they all want to win everywhere, but I think if you're Nestor Rivera and you win your first race at the Red Bull Ring, I think that's special.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then again, if you're a Finn and you kind of crash people at the Red Bull Ring.
I mean, he's just been struggling the whole season, though. The step up has just harmed him a lot, going straight from British F4 to it's very Solov-like what he's done, because of course Solov went from Spanish F4 straight to F3, and he really struggled at the start.
But I also feel like high tech is just not the best, because for some Jin Nakamura is he's doing good, all things considered. But other than that, high tech is just not scoring points, and it could be the fact that their drivers, just aren't ready for it. But I just also think, I'm going to be honest, if he was in Campus or Trident, he would definitely be doing better.
But we can't really, because he has, of course, done quite a big step up as well. I mean, even in Oceania, he did struggle quite a bit.
I wouldn't say that he would automatically be winning and stuff, but I think that if he was in...
Maybe he'd get some points, at least.
And another thing that I think is these are circuits that he just does not know at all. And especially Monaco and Australia, there were 2 circuits he just had no experience on.
I mean, at least Silverstone would be the only one. Silverstone would be the only one he knows on the whole calendar.
I think we make a lot of fun of drivers who, if a driver from Italian F4 would make the step, we would make fun. But I know this season we only have Italian circuits, but in the last few seasons we've also oftentimes had other circuits, and I think it was Ollie Behrman who also skipped Freck, right? I think he also did jump from, but
he went from Italian and German F4. He did both of those.
Italian F4 and German F4, I think both even 2 seasons. So he knew the circuits. They were like, he knew definitely Monza, Imola. I'm pretty sure that they've also did some rounds potentially in Austria or uh, Belgium. I'm not quite sure, and I don't want anyone to quote me on this. But also having the knowledge of Italian circuits, the circuits like Austria is closer than British circuits are to Austria.
Yeah, anyways, I think we should look at the future race where it was a really fun battle for the win towards the end between Freddie, Ugo, and Stromstead. I think Freddie kind of cooked his ties towards the end, but I think that's maybe partly true because the other top ones in the podium, they all have an additional year of F3 experience. But he still had some quite good defensive moves against. I think he can just take a lot to learn. I mean, he's in the lead. I mean, I'm sad he didn't win. I think he could have won. He had the pace to do so. I think just keeping the ties was so important this weekend, and I think he just largely let go of them towards the end.
I think it's the same conversation as we had with F2, where we all kind of expected Freddie and Trident to just run away with the title, especially after the performance shown in recent years. But it's pretty clear to me that I'm going to be honest and I'm going to say I think Camp is overall the stronger car and the stronger team.
It's coming from you and not from me means if I say that, I'm obviously biased.
Because, you know, I feel like, I mean, in a team's championship, Trident isn't even second, they're third. They're still behind Venomous Ford.
Yeah, because, I mean, DePalo's just been not doing anything. I think he's also really struggling.
Yeah, but also I expected also more from the duo of, Stromstead and Slater. Like we expected quite a lot from.
Apart from this weekend, Stromsted's actually not been doing. If I take away this weekend's performance, he's not actually been performing that well. I mean, of course, he's won this weekend,
Yeah, but
but
that's what I'm trying to point out. Going into 2025, we all expected Stromstead to be. Honestly, I didn't expect him to win like the championship, but I expected him to be someone you would see on the podium quite a handful of times. He's one of those drivers. I need to check before I say something wrong and I get cancelled again. Um, like Formula Regional, he was with RPM and he still scored a pole and a handful of podiums. And it's not that he's like the greatest driver ever, but especially with a team like Trident, I expected him to be up there. I expected him to do something, you know? But this far, he has scored a handful of points and he's like P6 in the championship. I think he was also up there last season, but it's not what we've been expecting, and it's definitely not what should happen when you're in a team that scored, the last 3 championships for a reason.
yeah, but I mean, at least the championship, I mean, Freddie still, I still hope he can do something. One DNF for Ugo, Freddie gets some points, that was still not too far. I mean, I'm still going to believe in Freddie, of course I am. I mean, he only 16 points behind Ugo. There's not a massive gap.
Simultaneously, Phil Niall, who I kind of have a soft spot for, is also only 10 points behind Freddie. And we saw he had a bad weekend, but the season was far from over. Everything can still happen. A bad crash can still happen at the wrong time. And suddenly, I think I'll say that I think these three should probably make up the championship. Bruno Lapino is also only 3 points behind, so I could also see him kind of get in the mix, but he's not a driver that we've been seeing so much from, but he's been very consistent recently.
Definitely, and even looking at the teams, Campos have nearly a 50-point lead in the team championship, which is insane.
Before we move on to the team's championship, actually, I wanted to mention that this feature race was the first time this season that Del Pino didn't score any points. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out because he is maybe not the one who's like always winning and he won one race and had one further podium, but he had a streak of 7 consecutive points finishes. And that's stuff that later can put you into the championship position, especially if, like, I think we saw it at some point where Ugachuku crashed. I think it was Spain, um, where it was like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there was kind of like overtaking stuff going on. He was running pretty well, and then he crashed, and it's like those things can cost you very, very valuable points. And if you're someone who's consistently fighting for the win, that's more likely to happen than if you're someone who's in the points very comfortably, but and also obviously fighting, but not quite up there for like really P1 aggressively. Sometimes it's a good idea to take points home with you and you gain more because the guys in front of you aren't happy enough and crash each other out.
Yeah, he's been doing a really solid job. I think VAR, while they're not maybe as fast as Campos or Trident, they're still doing quite solid. They are stuck in the team championship, but they have been doing quite a solid job, I think, with all three of their drivers. They're always getting solid points. They're always somewhere there in the points pretty much. Yeah, of course, VAR are only 6 points ahead of VAR in the team championship. But I think it's going to be Campos who wins this. I mean, it's quite.
You mean 6 points ahead of Trident? You said VAR is 6 points ahead of VAR.
No, other way. VAR is 6 points ahead of Trident within the standings. But I think that's mainly due to the Paladins not getting points for Trident. I think Trident are maybe slightly. It varies week to week. It's like last time out in Spain, Trident were awful. And VAR were really good. So maybe the swings between them for who be second fastest.
I think we'll have a good fight for second in the team's championship. I think first is probably, unless something like really dramatic happens, I think first is pretty locked in.
They get disqualified or.
That happens to a team in GB4 actually. One of the GB4 teams got disqualified from the entire championship.
There's precedent for it.
But yeah, unless something like majorly dramatic happens, I think our fight that we should be looking out for is for P2 in the team standings. Does anyone have anything to say about F3?
No, it was kind of boring.
So, the E4 season starts this weekend, and it's been a very long time since we've done a season preview because everything has already started like ages ago. But E4 it's not really a new championship, it's just a bit of a side championship to Italian F4 after ADAC F4 folded.
ADAC oder ADAC.
Okay, whatever. Okay, ADAC F4 folded.
We have to bring the German stuff.
Okay. And it started in 2023, so it's not really. It's kind of new. So we've had only 3 champions, obviously. Ugo Chukwu won the first one. Actually, Bora won in 2024, and KMB won in 2025.
Actually, come back. We miss you.
KMB was the first driver to win both Italian F4 and E4 in the same year. So we'll see if another driver can do the same thing or not. But like I said, E4 is very new, so
It's incredibly similar to Italian F4 in terms of the grid. A few minor differences, but it's basically Italian F4 2.0.
yeah. So Prema lineup, they have 7 cars again.
Wait, I have a question. Do we get points for the top 15 or top 10?
I don't know if they've changed it for E4 or not, actually. They changed it for Italian, but I don't know if they changed it for E4.
I hope they also do the 15 points because otherwise.
I mean, the grid is only 36 cars this time.
I imagine they would, because they're both run by ACI, aren't they?
Yeah. But yeah, so Prema lineup is the same 7 cars as Italian F4, except Cosma has been replaced by Georgi Zazov. I don't know if I said that right, but I'm a little bit surprised that Cosma's not there. just kind of because Aksoy had a bad weekend last time, but he's the highest Prema in the standings, so to not see him there, it reminds me a bit of our race last year where Olivieri was doing Italian F4 but just didn't show up for Euro 4 or E4. E4 still it was Euro 4 and then it got changed to E4 last year.
But I think it makes kind of sense. But yeah, because you have to keep in mind the money that running all these championships costs, and I can imagine that if you want to focus on Italian F4, you probably are getting, out outbidded, is that a word? By other folks who, want to drive but maybe only turned 15 recently or don't feel like doing a whole season or, you know, I can imagine and I can understand why someone wouldn't do both.
I think it's not doing both. I think it's purely maybe down to funding, honestly. That's as it always is in racing.
Yeah, but like imagine you ask your team, which you're also doing Italian forward, and you're like, hey, how about E4? And they're like, no, this guy has a lot more money and he just does not usually care for Italian 4. And I feel like E4 is also one of those things where we see more guys from other championships, you know, try out a bit of experience on the Italian circuits.
We'll get to that in a second because there's a couple drivers. So Us Racing has the exact same lineup as they do for Italian F4. So Samasto, Savankov, Killian, Bansal, Guso, and who am I missing? Sterling. I'm missing a driver.
Cancel?
I said Bansal.
She said Bansal, Kraling.
Say Basel twice.
Speaking of Bansal,
I'm going to issue an apology. I'm going to because I made a mistake and I'm very, very sorry for this. And I actually they don't know it, but I actually have to do two apologies because one is really old, but I still feel bad about it and I have nightmares about it. The first apology is I said that Ira Bansal, I said something along the lines of he's kind of rookie because he only did GB4, which was wrong because he also did British F4 and some other stuff. I think he did E4 last season, no?
I think so, yeah.
The thing is, the embarrassing part of that is actually that I saw him race live in British F4, so I don't know how the fuck I forgot that I saw him, and I'm pretty sure I even saw him win. I'm fairly sure about that. I don't know how the fuck I missed that, but I am pretty sure that I must have mixed him up with someone else. And when I think of Airbansel, I do not really think of British F4. I think of GB4 because that was the season he won the championship, which was really cool. And the second one, and I'm really still embarrassed about this because you'll need to shoot me for this, is that very, very early in the season when we were talking about F1 Academy, I said that Tina Hausman did not do other things, but that's also wrong because she did do, I think it was Italian F4 and E4 at some point, and she didn't even do it too badly. And I'm really embarrassed about it because I I need to shoot myself because I always say that I have everything in mind about humidors, but for some reason I forgot that, and I must have also mixed it up with someone else. And I'm so embarrassed. I'm going to retire.
I just remembered which driver I forgot in the Us Racing lineup. I forgot Robinson. We are going to get murdered by the Spanish
Oh.
fans. But yeah, so RSGP, their lineup from Italian F4, we have Andy, Kenzo, and Tamas. But I don't know where Emily is. That she's not here, and so the fourth and fifth cars are going to the Carros brothers from Spanish F4. I cannot lie to you. I don't know how they're doing in Spanish F4.
E4 kind of feels like a filler episode in an anime.
From the announcements that RS made, Peyton Westcott should be doing one round of E4, but I don't know how we're going to be doing that. Do we have a sixth car for her? Is she going to take the place of one of the other drivers?
I mean, we saw it in other seasons where, drivers would miss one race. And I don't know, has anyone checked if Spanish F4 overlaps with E4?
I have not checked, actually.
Because I can imagine that being a thing.
As far as I know, Emily's not doing anything in E4 this year. Like, she's not competing in it at all, which is kind of sad.
And I wonder if it's money or or in which direction it is maybe money, because either it's she cannot afford it and she's saying, hey, maybe she can afford it, but maybe she's saying she wants to take the money for else things like testing or doing other stuff. Or what I could also imagine, the Karras brothers, because I also don't know them, maybe they've got a lot of money, and if you only have a limited number of cars, and they say, "Hey, we're paying more than she does,"
I think they do have a lot of money. I just don't know how much a lot of money is.
I mean, if you have two children and they're brothers, and you're the parent, you can fund both the racing careers. You gotta have a bit of money.
Yeah.
To answer the Spanish F4 questions, the Carras brothers are not doing very well. Um, they've only scored points twice each. And yeah, there is a round that coincides from SF4 and it's the Monza round.
Maybe they just really like the Italian circuits.
So would they prioritize E4 or Spanish F4, do you think? Because like if they're not doing very well in Spanish F4 and they want to gain experience elsewhere, I could see them prioritizing going to Monza instead. But who knows?
I could see that, but I also would think Spanish F4 is the longer running championship that they're doing, but we'll see.
I mean, if you want to track new sponsors, what are you going to say? Hey, maybe I didn't have the best season, but I raced all, I think it's 7 or 8 rounds or something like that. You know, I improved. Or do you say, hey, in this championship where I have 9 races in general, I think if you want to use E4 to advertise yourself, you have to do really good. And if I was a driver, I would not risk that.
Team do they race for in Spanish F4? I have absolutely no idea.
G4.
So not a very good team. Our race is quite a good team. So I could see them doing at least better than they are in Spanish F4.
But also, you have to imagine the possible if you go in, you do really well, and then instead of returning for a second weekend, you just leave and you say, hey, I could have done even more, but I didn't want to. Even if you couldn't have done better. Just like bit of stat padding.
So that's the first cameo from drivers in other championships. We also have George Proudford Nolder in again with AKM.
I hope he can have a better time out.
Yeah. For him, and also luckily for Andy Consani, is that because the grid is 36 cars, there is no fourth race. So there is no possibility for either of them to not qualify for their third race.
You say that now just for them to DNS.
Oh.
Whatever happens, it's better than a DNQ, okay?
You're saying this now, but are we sure that they can't DNQ?
I mean,
Yeah, these are only 3 races.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if they don't show that they can qualify and just all their laps are below the, I mean, I assume in Italian 4 there's another.
I think if this happens, if that somehow happens, I think Robin will actually come for you. She's gonna show up at your house.
I don't bring bad luck. I just bring good luck.
so anyways, a lot of the teams have the same lineups that they do for Italian F4. So VAR, PHM, Trident, Cram, and Real Racing all have their same lineups.
He's basically Italian F4 2.0.
AKM, like I mentioned, they have George Proudford Nolder, and they also have Orsini. So they've cut down their lineup from 4 drivers to 2.
These drivers just sound like noodle types.
I don't know how to say this team's name or their driver's name, and I don't really feel like getting cancelled.
No, we gotta try, because I was bullied last week for not trying.
I did not bully you last week. That had nothing to do with me.
The thing is, it's either Scuderia Buell or it's Scuderia Bull, but someone can't spell.
I was thinking Buell, but I don't think that's right either.
It could also be Buell, but that also sounds stupid as fuck. And I think the name is Joaquin Rubino, or is there another way to pronounce that?
I was thinking Joaquin Rubino.
Hmm. I always thought that you pronounce the names as just like, you know, we said it once. Everyone who's a big fan of him should guess what I'm trying to say.
If anyone can teach us how to pronounce either of the team name or the driver's name, please let us know.
I think we should do that for one episode in the summer break where nothing races and we just try to pronounce every single name.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know anything about this team. I don't think they were there for E4 last year. Um, so we'll see how that goes. Out of the relevant teams from Italian F4, both Jenser and Muffy Racing are missing. I expected them to be there, but like at the same time, I'm not surprised that they're not there.
Jenser had quite a big, um, you know, group last year. Or not big because they only had two who did the whole thing and then quite a handful of drivers who did the first and the third round. So I think Jenser and Mafi are both, especially Jenser, more in sort of European zone F4. So I could imagine if they, have their attention there that they're going to like it's a waste of time also going into E4.
Yeah, maybe. So I think that's all for teams and lineups. In terms of the calendar, we have Vallelunga this weekend, Paul Ricard from July 17th to 19th, and then Monza as a finale, October 9th to 11th. Um, like I mentioned earlier, 36 cars means it's not the 4 race format. We just have the normal 3 race format where we have 2 qualifying sessions. Quali 1 determines the grid for race 1, Quali 2 for race 2, and then race 3 is a driver's second best time from either session. So if you set your second best time in Quali 1, that's what they'll use. If you set your best time in Quali 2, then that's what they'll use. It's depending on where you set your second best time.
I think we need to talk about a big problem here, which is personal to me because there's not a single woman in for Vallelunga. And there's a few explanations for that, but I'm still not happy with that. We obviously have no Formula One Academy drivers because Silverstone is on at the same time and they have to prioritize that. But we are also missing Emily Cotty and Ginevra Panseri. And for Panseri, I think she's actually actively avoiding doing it because Vallelunga is irrelevant. She could do Vallelunga, but Paul Ricard is also driven as the French F4 final. We know French F4 is super weird about these things, and I could totally imagine them saying that she's not allowed to do a race on Paul Ricard before French F4 goes to Paul Ricard. And Monza is the same weekend as Paul Ricard in French F4, and since she has to prioritize French F4, she could only do Vallelunga, which would be a lot of money for what exactly? But I don't know why we are not seeing Ablicati. If we look at the last
So sad about it.
if you look at the last few years, we usually saw quite a handful of female drivers. And I'm surprised, and I'm going to say something crazy. I'm surprised we're not seeing Aurelian Noble's return because she did it in both 24 and 25 and 23. Actually, she did it in Austin, and she's doing GB3 at the moment. So it could be that there's an overlap there, but I've always had the feeling that she really likes driving in Italy. So,
I mean, yeah, for this weekend, for example, GB3 is already on, so that's.
but I could totally see that we get female drivers in the next few weekends because if I look back at 2025, like Matilda Potts, I expect to see because I just have it in feeling that she's kind of I feel like she did it definitely last season, but I didn't she also do Italian for a bit? Like I also think that she has an interest to be there, and furthermore, obviously with having Matilda Racing behind her, I could imagine them kind of entering, or is AS Motorsport doing it this season?
No, they're not currently on the grid, but we could see them do a one-off entry at some point.
Yeah, I kind of hope that we see Matilda do that, especially if we have the points up to 15th again.
We'll have to look into that because I have no idea. We'll find out over the weekend if it's top 10 or top 15.
I still think we should do it like in car and just give everyone points.
So, do we want to discuss predictions?
I mean, I think we've learned. I mean, I'm just gonna say the US Racing Teams Championship, the dominance continues, but it's not gonna be Sam Alisi who comes on top. It's gonna be some random guy. I'm gonna go Robinson.
I'm not making the same mistake that I did for Italian F4.
If I'm saying Robinson champion, because who knows with this championship?
Because Bondarev has underwhelmed me, and Konsani is incredibly unlucky. So I'm not predicting either of them to be in the title fight. I am going to say this is really, really boring, but I don't want to embarrass myself again. So us racing teams champions. I said this in Italian F4 too, by the way. So that's like the one thing I got right.
But he said that in a non-serious manner.
Okay, but still, whatever. And then for drivers champion, I'm gonna be boring and say Savalisto just because he's absolutely dominated Italian F4. And like Vallelunga is a repeat from Italian F4, same with Monza.
I love Monza.
For Crown and Kitchen.
I think, and I'm going to absolutely agree. I think we're going to see US Racing win the team's championship, but I'm also going to be biased. And I'm going to be called a fake fan. I'm going to say Ari Bansel wins the championship, but it's close with Alp Aksoy because I think he's also been doing really well, and I'm really sure Alp Aksoy is winning the rookie championship. Think that should be a good guess.
I'm just scared to predict anything. Every time we have, it's gone down the drain. So yeah, sure. US Racing Championship, whatever.
So, is there anything left to say?
Not really. I hope everyone enjoyed this week's episode of our podcast. As always, let us know your thoughts. I would love to hear your predictions for Italian for your four. Do you think the US racing dominance is going to continue, or are we going to see Prema come back, or maybe always? Join us next week, where we're going to cover F2, F3, and F1 Academy at Silverstone. Of course, your third Vallelugna, Freck at the Hungaroring, and EC3 at Imola. It's going to be a long episode with 6 series to cover, so I hope you guys enjoy it.
Next episode is going to be 3 hours long, probably. If we have to talk about everything.
And it's gonna be an hour of just me crashing out.
And another hour of just me raving about Alicia Palmovsky's perfect performance.